Minh believed he was the kind of person who could control everything. His work, his life, his emotions, his future. He always believed that as long as he stayed strong enough and clear-minded enough, everything would go the way it was supposed to. But then, within less than a year, Minh lost the dog he loved most. And that loss led him to the woman who had become the love of his life. And it was because of her that he ended up on that road the night a truck ran a red light. The night he almost died. But years later, Minh finally realized if none of those things had happened, he probably wouldn't still be alive today. And that was the day he understood. Some things that look like loss are actually guiding us. Gogo wasn't just a dog. He was the only living thing waiting for Minh every night when he came home to his quiet apartment. Minh had raised Gogo since he was very small. In those early days, he stayed awake through the night feeding him, learned how to take care of him, took him to the vet whenever he got sick. Even though Minh always acted distant, he had never truly been cold-hearted toward Gogo. After exhausting days at work, Gogo made the apartment feel less empty, the silence less unbearable. Then one rainy evening, Minh forgot to lock the gate. Just for a few minutes, Gogo disappeared. For 3 straight days, Minh barely slept. He walked through the city in the rain, calling Gogo's name, putting up missing dog posters everywhere, and constantly blaming himself. The first thing people do when they suffer is try to figure out whose fault it is. And most of the time, the first person we blame is ourselves. Minh kept thinking, if only I had been more careful. Then on the 4th day, his phone rang. A woman said she had found Gogo near an old bookstore across town. Her name was Rose. When Minh arrived, what surprised him wasn't just that Gogo was safe, it was how instantly comfortable Gogo seemed around Rose. Minh was never the type to open up easily, but that night he stayed and talked with her for almost 2 hours outside the closed bookstore. Rose was different from anyone he had ever met. She didn't try to impress him, didn't try to change him, didn't seem bothered by his cold personality. And around her, for the first time in years, Minh felt like he didn't have to pretend to be strong all the time. And somehow, losing Gogo led him to the person who fit his life perfectly. The worst week of Minh's year became the beginning of the best chapter of his life. Years later, Minh would often tell his friends, "If Gogo hadn't disappeared that night, I probably would have never met Rose." But he could only say that after enough time had passed. People are always like that. The moment something happens, we immediately want to decide, is this good or bad? A blessing or a disaster? But life doesn't move as quickly as our conclusions do. When Minh was young, his grandfather once told him, "A river keeps flowing, even when it has to change direction." Back then, Minh didn't understand it. Minh had always been someone who wanted control over everything. He was used to making quick decisions, used to solving problems himself, used to believing that if he stayed strong enough, everything would work out. But later in life, Minh finally understood. Some things exist beyond human control. And sometimes, we only understand the true meaning of something after enough time has passed. Years later, he realized there are things people can only understand after they've traveled very far from the moment they first happened. 6 months later, Rose called Minh close to midnight. Her car had broken down outside the city. At that moment, Minh was still working, but he immediately grabbed his keys. That was simply the kind of person he was. Fast, decisive, never hesitating. On the drive there, he remembered smiling to himself and thinking, "I'm really lucky I met her." 10 minutes later, a truck ran a red light. Glass exploded everywhere. Metal twisted violently. The sound of screeching brakes tore through the rain. Then everything went black. Minh woke up in the hospital 3 days later. Broken ribs, a concussion, internal bleeding. And for weeks, he called it the worst day of his life. Until a doctor walked into his room with a strange expression on his face. During the brain scan after the accident, they found a tumor, malignant. It had been growing silently for years. But it was still early enough to treat. The doctor looked at Minh for a long moment before saying, "If you hadn't gotten into that accident, we probably wouldn't have found it in time." And for the first time in his life, Minh no longer knew what counted as luck and what counted as misfortune. Minh returned home from surgery at the hospital. He stood silently gazing at his apartment. Rose quietly cooked by the stove, and for some reason, that afternoon brought a profound sense of peace. Not because life had finally become easier to understand, but because he had stopped trying to control the meaning of everything. People suffer so much because they constantly ask, "Why is this happening to me?" But water doesn't suffer because it has to change course. The seasons don't suffer because the leaves have to fall. Only people wish for things to remain unchanged forever. And strangely, when Minh stopped fighting against life's uncertainty, he finally began to feel more at ease. Long ago, Minh believed wisdom meant avoiding pain. Now he understood. Some things that look like loss are actually guiding us somewhere. People only see individual moments, but life sees the entire journey. And when something beyond our control happens, maybe life is quietly leading us somewhere better than we imagined. If you want luck to find you like it found Minh, make sure to like and follow our page.